Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing New.
Welcome to the morning. This is your host, the Fanboy Killer.
Canelo Alvarez set to surpass Floyd Mayweather with one more win. And look, let's just break it down honestly and objectively as possible. And we start with Floyd Mayweather. When you look at Floyd Mayweather, who he is, who he was, you see that the guy was enormously talented. He's an elite level fighter. The guy had great IQ, great footwork, great reflexes, defensive skills, some of the best I've ever seen. Him and Pernell Whitaker. I mean, when you look at Floyd Mayweather, the guy was truly a special talent. He is one of the best fighters that have ever done it in the history of boxing, period. There's never going to be another Floyd Mayweather Jr., and I give him all the credit in the world. But with that being said, Canelo Alvarez is on the brink of absolute greatness because he's literally one win away from surpassing Floyd Mayweather's legacy. And you know, Canelo Alvarez has an opportunity to do something no one has ever done in the history of boxing, and that's becoming the undisputed champion at super middleweight, 168 pounds. Canelo Alvarez is one win away from pulling that off. If Canelo Alvarez accomplishes that goal, he's broken a record. He's made history. He's done something no one has ever done. His name will permanently be in the history books for doing that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has never been undisputed, and he's never been the first in any division to take that crown. So this would be monumentous for Canelo Alvarez's legacy. It would be massive. And you see, one of the reasons why Floyd is never went undisputed in any particular weight class is simply because he cared more about money than legacy. This is something Floyd repeated time and time again. So unless you were living under a rock, you already know that Floyd values money over legacy. You know that Floyd Mayweather carefully selected his opponents, because he wanted to make the most money, not necessarily fight the best at their best. And we understand because even Floyd's name is Money Mayweather. I mean, if you look at who Floyd Mayweather was, you see him pass a lot of great opportunities up to face the best fighters at the right time. You see he rejected certain fights. He ignored others. You see what Floyd Mayweather did. He waited out some fighters to fight him late. We understand what Floyd Mayweather has done. We understand how he picks his opponents. He never fights anybody at their absolute best. I dare you to name who he fought at their absolute best, because none of the fighters that I've seen him fight at their absolute best were the best when he fought them. Let's just be honest and unbiased. And when you look at Canelo Alvarez, you see that haters are going to have a list of excuses as to why he can never surpass Floyd Mayweather's legacy. And anybody saying that is obviously a hater or an idiot or just a troll, because you see, as great as Floyd Mayweather was, there's a lot of holes in his legacy. Canelo Alvarez making absolute history. If he can pull that off, he's absolutely going to surpass Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd is one of the best ever. That's just a testament to how great Canelo run has been. I mean, look at it like this. There's a laundry list of excuses that these fanboys are going to come up with, and I'm going to break them down and debunk them one by one. You start with the first excuse where they're going to say, well, Floyd Mayweather beat Canelo Alvarez. He beat Canelo Alvarez. Shouldn't that be enough to where Canelo can never surpass his legacy? That makes zero sense, because Floyd Mayweather beat Canelo Alvarez at 23 years old and with a catch weight nowhere near his physical prime. So which is more impressive, Floyd beating a 23-year-old Canelo with a catch weight nowhere near his physical prime, or Canelo Alvarez with great wins over prime elite Danny Jacobs at his best as a world champion in his prime, or Canelo moving up 2 weight classes to knock out a world champion in Kovalev coming off of 2 wins against 2 undefeated fighters, or Canelo Alvarez beating a prime Austin Trout. Canelo Alvarez has a lot of great wins, and Floyd Mayweather fought Canelo Alvarez at 23, nowhere near his prime and with the catch weight. Which is more impressive to you? Let's just be honest and unbiased. And you know, if you keep going, you look at it like this, well, you're going to see some fanboys with the excuse, well, Canelo Alvarez is a dirty fighter. He failed a drug test. And you're absolutely right. He sure did, and there's no denying that. But when you look deeper into it, you look a little bit closer, you see that Canelo Alvarez was exonerated of any wrongdoing. And that's confirmed by the WBC and WADA. And at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people don't want to look at the facts. They want to ignore those facts. But he was exonerated. Whether you agree with it or not, he was exonerated. Facts don't lie. And then when you turn and look at Floyd Mayweather, you have a lot of people believing that Floyd has never done any wrong or can never do any wrong. Those guys are called fanboys. And what I mean by that is, you know, you see Floyd Mayweather, you know, he popped for a banned IV before the Manny Pacquiao fight. When you look at what happened in that situation, according to the report, Floyd Mayweather received an exemption for the IV from USADA 3 weeks after the fight. And according to the report, you know, that's when he received it. Now, the Nevada State Athletic Commission said USADA was not authorized to grant an exemption to Floyd Money Mayweather. So why would USADA grant an exemption if they're not authorized to do so? Because a lot of people believe that Floyd Mayweather had USADA in his pocket. That's the whole reason why he insisted on using USADA all the time. The guy was never a big proponent of VADA. He was a big proponent of USADA, an anti-doping agency who never really caught anybody, while VADA is the gold standard. VADA is the standard that catches everyone and everything. So that's why people prefer VADA. It's the best. USADA has never been the best, never considered the best. And for all we know, they were on the payroll of Money Mayweather. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't even know what was in those IVs. Were they tested? Did we get the actual solutions? Do we have samples? Not only that, there was some allegations made, according to SB Nation, that Floyd has potentially used testosterone in the past, and USADA tests weren't able to pick that up. I mean, let's be honest and unbiased. USADA is not the best for a reason, and VADA is the gold standard for a reason. But then we keep going, and you see other excuses they'll use to discredit Canelo and not give him his just due. And they'll say, well, you know, he had a controversial fight against Triple G. He lost to Triple G. And I'll actually agree with that point. Because in my analysis of Canelo and Triple G, especially in the first fight, I had Triple G winning that fight. I thought Triple G beat Canelo Alvarez. That's my personal opinion. I know most of the boxing world feels the same way. And we all saw that fight. So at the end of the day, that is true. Canelo Alvarez had a controversial fight against Triple G. But at the same token, didn't Floyd Mayweather have a controversial fight against Luis Castillo? At the end of the day, we see it, and you have to keep that same energy. People don't like to talk about that, but we have to be honest. And then we also see, well, you know, people say he had a controversial fight against Erislandy Lara, which is also true. It was a close fight. I thought Canelo edged that fight. But not only that, Floyd Mayweather also had a controversial fight against Marcos El Chino Maidana, who landed more punches against Floyd Mayweather than anyone ever has. So at the end of the day, we know that Floyd Mayweather had multiple controversial decisions. And this is not even in counting Oscar De La Hoya, who a lot of people felt like was a very close, controversial fight as well. But then you also see Floyd Mayweather, you know, he came in overweight for his fight against Juan Manuel Marquez at the weigh-in, paid hefty fines for that. He was at least 4 pounds heavier than Marquez at that time, and many people speculate he was 8 to 10 pounds heavier on fight night because Floyd Mayweather refused to take a night of the fight weigh-in. He refused to be weighed the night of the fight. So we'll never know how heavy he was that night. And we even seen Juan Manuel Marquez go on record stating that the weight dramatically affected him. And look, here's the absolute truth about everything. Floyd Mayweather, he was a fantastic fighter, a great fighter, an elite fighter. Canelo Alvarez is a great fighter, an elite fighter, a fantastic fighter. Both of these guys will be in the Hall of Fame. Both of these guys will go down in history as being excellent top-tier fighters. I will never discredit either fighter because both of these guys are simply great. That's not what this is. This is simply stating that Canelo Alvarez is elevating his game by making history. I mean, look at it like this. You see, Canelo Alvarez is set to become the first super middleweight undisputed champion. Far exceeds everything Floyd has done, especially when you consider the rest of Canelo Alvarez's resume. Because men lie, women lie, but the facts don't lie.